What's going on, guys? Billy here, and over the past year I've been carrying two phones in my pocket, and they are the Google Pixel 3 and the iPhone XS Max. The Pixel 3 is the Android phone that I've definitely used the most. I remember in the early stages of the iPhone when it was exclusive to AT&T, I was using the HTC Incredible over on Verizon, but once the iPhone was made available to Verizon customers, I made the switch almost immediately. I went about 8 years in a row buying iPhones using iOS devices, but once I switched to the Pixel 3, it kind of let me look outside of the walled off garden of the ecosystem of Apple, and I really did fall in love with using Android. Now, because of that, I've wanted to check out some recent phones like the Samsung Galaxy S10, the OnePlus 7 Pro, even the Huawei P30 Pro, although that last one probably won't ever happen. But I decided to go in the other way and check out the Google Pixel 3, which is Google's brand new budget phone. As you can tell by the phones that I currently have in my pocket and the ones that I said I'd like to check out, I'm definitely a fan of flagship level devices that have top tier specs at an obvious top tier price. This year, though, Google threw us a curveball by simplifying the previous Pixel 3 to make the Pixel 3a. Rather than follow the current trend of ditching the bezels and doing something crazy with the camera placement in a flagship device, Google delivered a fundamentally great phone in a price that is incredibly affordable. With that said, I want to answer one question by the end of this video, and that is budget better? Is buying a budget level phone better than buying a top tier premium flagship level phone? Now, obviously, everybody is different. Everyone's going to have their own personal taste in what they want to buy, what operating system they want to run. And for me, I'm definitely a fan of the high-end flagship phone. So it's going to be interesting to see what Google had to cut out of the Pixel 3 to make the Google Pixel 3a more affordable. Now, the biggest difference with the Pixel 3a is hardware. The most notable is the polycarbonate body, which doesn't really feel cheap at all. It certainly doesn't feel as premium as glass and metal, but it's actually refreshing to hold a phone that feels lighter and not as damage prone in your hands or to store in your pocket. With this plastic body, though, unfortunately that means that wireless charging is unavailable, which is a shame, but I do understand where Google had to make these cuts. On the front of the phone is where most of the changes come, as the dual camera setup has been merged into one. So rather than choosing between 175 degree or 197 degree camera, we get one single 84 degree shooter that feels wide enough for casual selfies, which I really don't take all that often. Now, there's also a lack of dual front firing speakers. The 3a still has stereo speakers, they just don't face right at you as you use the phone. Some might say it's a little bit less immersive, but I spend most of my time listening to music or videos on my headphones, which, speaking of headphones, there's actually an added headphone jack. I've been living the wireless headphone life now for about 2 years, and I don't really intend on switching back to a wired method unless I'm video editing, but hey, it's there for you if that's something that you use on the regular. The final major hardware difference between the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3a is the overall size. I don't have the XL models, but the smaller version is 0.3 inches taller, 0.1 inches wider, and the thickness is actually the same, but I feel like the new 3a is just slightly fatter. Now, an obvious con here is the larger bezels, but the Pixel 3 already had a big forehead and a big chin. The larger frame really isn't anything detrimental to me. In fact, I actually don't mind it because it gives me more to hold on to, and the screen is actually bigger by 0.1 diagonal inches, if that means anything to you, although it's really not that big of a difference. Although most of the money saved creating this phone came from different design choices, some sacrifices were made on the inside, like the lower tier Snapdragon 670 processor opposed to the Snapdragon 845 used in last year's Pixel 3. The difference when using apps like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook is so negligible that I barely noticed any hiccups, but under more taxing loads, it can prove to be a little bit slower. A prime example of this is through photo processing, especially when shooting in modes like night sight, which require a lot of help from software. I also recently learned that the Pixel 3a is only capable of taking 5 photos to merge into one when creating HDR images, opposed to the 6 that the Pixel 3 can take. At the end of the day, both of these cameras are at the front of the pack when it comes to taking low light photos, and quite frankly, I don't notice much of a difference between the two. To wrap up this talk on shortcuts taken by Google, this phone does not come with a waterproof rating. It doesn't use Gorilla Glass, this time opting for Dragon Tail Glass, and the fact that it only comes in a 64GB storage option. Although I think I'm alright with that because Google relies so heavily on the cloud, but I hope that I don't get to the point where I have to make the tough decision of what I want to delete and what I want to keep. On a more positive note, let's move away from what this phone can't do and what it lacks onto what its strengths are. The first one is pretty obvious. It only costs $399. Yeah, Yes, everything that I went over, all the features that are missing will be missed, like wireless charging specifically, but you've got to remember that price as I go over all the incredible things that this phone still maintains from the Pixel 3. The first and most notable thing about this phone is the camera that Google did not opt to cripple at this lower price. The good thing about Google's cameras is that they don't rely on extra hardware, but instead are backed by great software that is easy to include in their new phones. Night sight, like I was showing you, is still a feature available on the Pixel 3a and takes photos not once possible in a smartphone in low light situations. It does something that a $1,000 phone from Apple can't. Aside from the cool features of the camera, the regular images, the everyday images, are some of the best in the business and will certainly not disappoint. I'm honestly addicted to shooting with this camera. It's just so good. Other software features specific to Google's phones are still here in the Pixel 3a, like Now Playing, to pick up what song is playing in the room, and also Screen Call, which I think is great, but I haven't actually made much use of in my time using either Pixel phones, the Pixel 3 or the Pixel 3a. Under the new glass is an OLED panel that could have easily been ditched for a typical LCD panel at this price point, but I'm glad Google didn't take that route. The colors are vibrant, and of course the blacks are deep, but the viewing angles suffer from what I'm blaming on this different glass. If you put the phone almost sideways, you get this rainbow effect, which are not apparent on the Google Pixel 3. Now, how many times are you going to be looking at your phone from this angle? Probably never, but it's worth mentioning. I think in all Pixel devices, the screen is nothing special, like it could be brighter, but especially in a phone of this price, it'll do. At this very low price point, the Pixel 3a also has great battery life. It's actually 85 milliamp hours bigger than the previous battery in the Pixel 3, and its processor is designed with more cores dedicated for lower power consumption rather than high performance, and I've not had any issues getting a full day of constant but brief social media interaction and heavy consumption of audio content. I also brought both the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3a with me to Governor's Ball up in New York City. I was shooting on them a lot for the whole entire weekend, and they were definitely dying faster than usual, but when you're shooting in night sight with the Pixel 3 or the Pixel 3a, you're definitely going to see some decreased battery life. On a side note, I might be imagining things here, but I think that the Pixel 3a has a better haptic motor than the one inside of the Pixel 3. For some reason, it feels more satisfying. It feels better in my hands when I'm typing or when I unlock the phone or even drag down or swipe down on the notification menu. For some reason, it just feels better. I have no idea if they improved it through hardware or software, but it feels better. Also, I think that despite not having front-firing speakers, the speakers in the Pixel 3a are better than the ones in the Pixel 3. On my Pixel 3, the whole entire phone like vibrates at maximum volume, and these are the two things that I pick out, even though they're so small, because the Pixel 3a and the Pixel 3 are just so similar. So now for the final verdict. Is budget better? And it kind of depends on how you look at it. So is the Pixel 3a a better phone than the Pixel 3? No, but you've got to factor in the price. The Pixel 3 came out and cost $799 on release, and that is double the price of the Pixel 3a, which costs $399. And you've got to look at both of these phones. The usability of them is basically identical. You can do a lot of the same things, but the Pixel 3 just has a few of what I would call convenience features, right? Like wireless charging, 2 selfie cameras, but at the end of the day, these phones really do operate the same, and you're paying a fraction of the cost, half of the cost, for the Pixel 3a. Here's the thing though, the Pixel 3 is now priced at $599, so for an extra $200, you can get everything I went over that the Pixel 3a is missing, like wireless charging, the 2 front-facing cameras, the better processor inside. So you've got to kind of evaluate in terms of what you want, but I do think at the end of the day that budget is better because you get the same experience in a phone that is much less expensive, but it always pays off to do your research. So before buying, do your research, make sure it's the phone that you want, and the Google Pixel 3a is definitely probably the best budget phone you can buy right now. So if you're looking for something on the less expensive side, be sure to check it out. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.